we're live, Sunday Funday show with a special collab. We're doing the Kyle's Prediction Show together. Say hello to everybody, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
So, let's jump right into this thing. Going into the power rankings that Dylan just posted up for us. Looks like no change at the top. Chalupa Batman and House of Prism still at 1 and 2. The big surprise for me is Martial Law jumping up to number 3. Do you think he deserves that number 3 spot?
Does Martian Law deserve number 3? I mean, he's into that spot on sheer grit. So, in some ways, yeah, as a manager, he does seem a little lucky. But at the same time, I got to give him.
I can't talk too much crap about him considering the whole we both have the same overall win records at 42 and 30. So I'm not gonna give
Why
him.
do you think he deserves to be 3? I don't know. I haven't given it that much thought.
No, I think I should be 3 considering I'm on the top of the division.
I think I should be 3, considering I'm in Chalupa's division and I'm still 5 and 3.
Yeah, but the rest of your division is cake. You got Subtavius and Montana Musculotors.
I lost to Joe Buck. I play him again in this, and there's a chance I lose again.
The big news though, the big news of the week is H-Bug now is no longer an O whatever team. He actually has 2 wins on his overall win record.
2-70.
2 and 70. Congratulations, Holden.
That's an impressive win-loss ratio.
I honestly did not think he would ever get it. Like, I honestly thought he was going to finish it out at 0.
His playoff odds with this 8th loss dropped to 0.
Oh, it was already at 0%. I don't think it was possible for him
Was
to.
it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was at 0% last week.
Oh man,
I believe
and
Joe.
0-7. You got to believe it.
Yeah, and I believe Joe Buck and Stamtavius were both at around 9 or 8%, somewhere around there last week. And Joe Buck has dropped down to 2%. Still possible, but he's gotta run the table and get lucky on everybody else's matches. And Stamtavius is actually 3 and 5 now, meaning that he can make the playoffs. Though unlucky for him, Chalupa Batman and House Priapism lost last week. Which, you know, if you're at the bottom trying to make it into playoffs, you kind of want the people at the very top to just beat up on everybody else to give you a chance to get in. So
Yeah, like Holding could have beat me, and that would have put him in
right,
the 4-4 spot.
yeah, they'll put another
Maybe
4-4 team that he can try to get on top of. So, but he's still in there, kind of.
Joe Buck is kind of.
Nah, he's got to get so lucky now. He really had to beat me last week. If he beat me last week, his odds would have been so much better. But unfortunately, he ran to the highest scoring team. So tis a shame.
I wish we had something else for them to do as like the first people to get knocked out of playoff contention. Like next season or next draft, they need to pay for drinks, shots, maybe something like along those.
That'd be pretty interesting. But do we
I guess
really
they're-
want Holden to buy more drinks for everyone?
That's true. He's paid for me to get drunk so far.
Oh
What-
man.
All the more reason to just give him the obligatory role.
So hey, let's take a look at the league standings really quick. And we got Chalupa Batman on top of the Marvin, and you're right behind her at 5 and 3. The big difference though is that she's 4 and 0 on the division, and you're 2 and 2. So even if you do catch up to her, she loses a game and you win a game. Say both of you are 6 and 3. You're still not on top of the division. You still gotta get another win on her, or hope that she loses to some division matches.
So we all start. So there's 5 more regular season games, and 4 of them are divisional.
Yes.
And I played Joe Buck this week, and she plays who? She she played Montana. Oh, that's a tight one too for projections. So within 2 weeks, I could get potentially a tied. If she loses both of them. As strong as her team's been, it's hard to believe that. I like where I'm sitting at 5-3. There are four, and basically that is shaping up to be the playoff bracket from what I can tell. Martian Law still on the bubble there, and the ship. It's basically coming down between those two as to, I think, where he's at probably doesn't stand a chance of winning his way into the play. I
Yeah,
feel confident. I don't need that bye necessarily. I'm not too excited about trying to grab onto that right now over to a strong team. I feel good for my playoff chance.
yeah, I kind of feel like Montana Muscaleters has just been getting really lucky on everyone. Like, if you just go click on his team and click on schedule, you see how he's just winning games. He scored 130 points here, and then he did have two games where he like definitely deserved to win, 160 points and 200 points. But then again, just a couple other games where he wins out with the 159 and 142. He's just been getting lucky, but his team is still putting out decent points. Maybe I'm not giving him the credit that he deserves. What do
I'm
you?
sure he would say that.
And then we have Samtavius Roboclick. Again, he's hanging in there. He might be able to make it in, but I don't know. I'm not sure if he will. It's a very slim chance. And then at the bottom, at the Whoreface division, you got me. I surpassed House of Priapism again, thanks to our tiebreaker of me having beat him. But this week he gets the chance to take it back as we're playing each other this week. So whichever one of us wins this game, myself or House of Priapism, will be on top of the Whoreface division next week. So it's a pretty big game.
Yeah. Early season, it was looking like Priapism was going to be the clear-cut number one in that division for a while, but I predicted that Captain McGee was going to resurge. They had a really strong roster, and it's proven to be true so far. So this is a tight matchup this week that I'm really.
Yeah, as you can see, my team just started out super strong, like 190 points 2 weeks in a row, and then a 167. And then Lamar Miller got hurt, Fitzpatrick got benched, everything went downhill. But
Yeah,
now that
yeah.
I've held
3-2 in the last two games.
yeah,
Went on 2-3 in the last five,
yeah,
and still.
yeah, it's just the whole fact, like, now it's coming back together. Lamar Miller is no longer hurt. Fitzpatrick is back as quarterback of the Buccaneers. That will help my Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson. Marlon Mack, who was injured all year long, is finally back, and he's beast noting it. So my team's looking strong again, which is nice. And then my dad owns a dealership at 4-4. Just I'm gonna read this off to you, okay? One week he scored 206 points, the next week he scored 177, and then he scored 169, and then he scored 178, and then he scored 161, and then he scored 156, and then 170, and then 161 again. Does that sound like a team that should be 4-4 to you?
He really just ran bad against some tough teams. I mean, that first loss he took was to you at nearly 200. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like the benchmark that we've set as like, oh, that's almost unbeatable. Like, you have to really bring it together. He then played Priapism, who drops nearly 190. Plays me, I dropped 200 flat on him. And last week against RoboClick, that's got to be the one that hurts the most because there's a chance that he could have won. And RoboClick really hasn't been that strong. I think we all get a couple of those a season that we really like to give up. Obviously, the one that dealership is going to be thinking about for a good long while.
Yeah, I think that loss hurts the most.
Got that 5 big time.
Can you imagine if, like, some Tavius Roboclick does come back and then ends up making it into the playoffs because of this game where he loses by 5 points?
I can't imagine.
How much that would suck.
Oh my god, it scares me just thinking about it. It's kind of like a nightmare. I think beatdown Dylan would have to come out and really just rage on all of us for the rest of the season through the playoffs and shit talking all of our teams just from the sidelines.
Man, it's so close. Like the whole league is so competitive right now. We have so many teams fighting the playoffs. It's really gonna go all the way to the last week. I'm pretty sure. See who makes it in.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting couple weeks here because 8 games halfway through the fantasy regular the whole season of fantasy football.
Right.
They talk about team play in November, December. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks being like one of those teams. Some trends. Keenan Allen last season, he had a really strong second of the fantasy
Right.
season. So I'm curious to see where some of those breakouts start to reoccur. The teams that haven't been looking so strong,
Right.
maybe they do have a chance to start.
And to segue off of that, maybe one of these trades that just happened on the trade deadline, it could be one of the resurgence. Let's talk about that a little bit. The three big players that got traded: Golden Tate, Demaryius Thomas, Ty Montgomery. And I guess we could say Amari Cooper, even though he wasn't today. He did get traded not too long ago.
That was last week. You guys might have touched on that a
Yeah,
little bit. That was rounding out the biggest trades of at least fantasy viable players.
right. Were there any defensive players traded?
We talked about Aha Clinton Dix earlier
Oh, right, went to the
today.
Redskins. Yeah.
I mean, you could talk about Khalil Mack going back.
Yeah, for I'm reaping the benefits of that right now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So NFL. So these guys got traded. Let's talk about Golden Tate. He's on House of Priapism, I believe. He went over to
Yes.
your your Eagles. How do you think that's going to impact the league?
You know, it really. Oh, Detroit. I think that's the biggest thing. It's more the target vacuum that Golden Tate was, and his leaving that we have to address. You just saw Mark go nuts last weekend. I think he was on the bench for somebody. Oh no, actually, Holden started him against me, which helped a lot with his ability to score more than 100 points.
Right.
So it's interesting to see what that's going to turn into for other players on that roster. Kenny Galladay being the other. I think he's on Joe Buck. So you got two maybe increasing assets on some floundering team, which is really fascinating. Are they willing to trade some of those valuable pieces? What's it even worth at this point for them to give up their budding players? And I think that's a big question that we have to try to answer.
It's just a
But there's
shame
also
that
a chance.
both of those players are on teams that probably won't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd like to see them on a team in the playoffs potentially because I'm really a huge fan of Kenny Galladay. I've watched him play since last season and a little bit in college, and I just traded for him in my dynasty team. Kenny Galladay is just a freak in nature. They call him he is a freak, and the catches that he makes are acrobatic and spectacular on like a weekly basis. He's also suffered from like a lot of bad luck, having touchdown either bad PI calls or out of bounds
Right.
calls and some holding calls. He's had like 3 or 4 of them this season.
Talking about like offensive pass interference, I would really love it if like the technology caught up for fantasy football where we could get points for offensive pass interference on our wide receivers.
Yeah, seriously.
Like the wide receiver draws pass interference on a 30-yard play, but you don't get any points for that. Like that's 30 yards, man. I would love to get those 3 points.
Yeah, I think they should call that the
The what?
if the guy can't get a fucking touch, the Julio Jones rule. Because that man draws some penalties and gets no benefit for it. And how many times have they like just had to? They'd rather take the penalty than the touchdown sometimes. I saw this last week, and it's really unfair for fantasy scoring that you have that much impact on a team's success, like to get down there on a 40-yard, a 70-yard play. and then
Right, and
we see
it's
nothing for him
nothing
in the
for
box score.
fantasy players. Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing about Flea Flicker that's pretty good is like if you send them an email and tell them about a rule, like they will think about it. Like I actually sent them um, an email a couple of days ago because I was thinking about how to make defensive scoring better, and I asked them to add forced punts or punts against how on like when a defense forces the other team to punt, right? Like
Mhm.
that means the defense won that possession. That's almost as good as an interception. Like if the defense is doing your job and they force the other team to punt the ball, then you should be able to get points for that. And I sent them an email, and they sent me an email back like not even 2 hours later, like thank you for the suggestion. That's a really interesting idea, and we'll talk about it and see if we can implement it. Like Flea Flicker is pretty good about stuff like that.
Yeah, I see them paving the way for the scoring here. With all the metrics and the data that we have, there's got to be a way uh, to make a really fun game out of this and something that makes is traditional fantasy football in the newspapers. That's a thing of the past, and so,
Yeah,
you know if
it,
you're not in a PPR league anymore, not doing any of
I, I
the other
f-
like intelligent scoring systems, it's like, what are you doing? You're dying.
yeah, I just feel like we're in this weird transitional stage of so fantasy football used to be a certain way because like that's how they set it up back then because it was the first time they were creating a game and they didn't really have good technology so they set it up that way. And now we are getting the technology to be able to try different things and now we have all this data and now we can come up with like the more balanced, more perfected version of fantasy football, but like it hasn't been done yet, and like I feel like you know people are trying to do it. I think it's an interesting time for fantasy football.
It is. There's another really interesting thing. Metrics aside, Pro Football Focus does grading on every single player of every single game,
Right.
every single week, and they do college, right? So they have a system for this, and they turned it into a 0 to 100, and built a mathematical formula around that so that it fits. And a couple players over the years have broken it, like J.J. Watt, and the ability that he had.
Right.
Such an impact on the defensive side of football. But there's something to evaluating like the player's performance more so than just the fantasy points that they get too. And it's like, how does something like incorporate itself into a game like fantasy football? And it might address some of those things that we always feel like problems with, like quarterback scoring, or
Right.
yeah, because like why does garbage time Blake Bortles deserve 30 points versus like Carson Wentz, who helps them win the game and only gets like.
Right. Yeah, and I have some ideas about that, but I think that's or quarterback scoring in general, but I think that's a topic for another day. Let's continue talking about these trades though. So Golden Tate on Philadelphia Eagles. How long until you think he's fantasy football relevant?
They traded for him going, flew back from London. He's going to be at camp within the week. I think he starts right away. I mean,
Really?
this guy's a consummate professional. Yeah, I
He-
think he'll at least see playing time. I don't know how fantasy viable. I imagine in a PPR league, like, I wouldn't even miss a beat. In a league like ours, I would say, yes, start him immediately because,
Really?
well, the role that I see for him, they don't really have a legit down. I think they're happy with this committee of Wendell Smallwood and Corey Clement, and now Josh Adams has been increasing snaps. But what they really need is someone to dump off and take some of these like little screen passes and some of the RPO options that they have run.
Right.
And
They were
Golden
trying to
Tate
do
was the
that with
perfect guy
Nelson
for that.
Aguilar, like at the beginning of the year. Like,
Yeah, and he's
yeah,
not
now
really the guy
he's
for
not
it.
really
He's
he's
not
not that
physical.
good. Yeah, he's not. He's not talented in that manner, and Golden Tate would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
So I can see why they traded for him. He's
So
he's definitely gonna be big. I think he's gonna be really big for fantasy football. I just am not as confident as you are that he's gonna come in right away and just be awesome.
I think in a three wide receiver league, like where you have to start three, I
Right.
think he's a wide receiver three, week 1 or week 10. I wouldn't expect much more from him outside of that, but I imagine him get at least 5, and hopefully more.
Yeah, it's good for House of Priapism for sure. I think he's gonna get it, and like I said, it does impact Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones, but it's Holden and Dean. Unless they get traded out of those two teams, it's not really gonna do much for the league. The next player is Demarius Thomas, and he's in the Chalupa Batman.
Do
Yeah.
you have any thoughts on that?
I think Chalupa Batman just got a whole lot better.
You think so?
Oh my god, dude. I know you think Demarius Thomas is old and washed up, and that's probably true, but it still doesn't stop the fact that he's on the Houston now. The Houston offense is much better than the Denver Broncos. He's gonna definitely put up more points. I don't know if he's gonna reach like top wide receiver level, but I can see him averaging 15 points a week.
Oh, that's a lot of. Yeah, I think my stand is on D. I'm, it, it's really more about Deshaun Watson as a whole. I think Watson so far has been the most prolific when he's had Will Fuller, and without Will Fuller, he's been kind of abysmal. And Hopkins is awesome, and like they ran out Hopkins and QT for a bit, and I think they won one of those games. But Fuller, like, just he can blow the top off of the secondary, and Watson is willing to go all fucking day and just launch bombs. And I don't think DT has the same athleticism that Fuller brought to them, and so I don't think they're going to use him to replace him. But like they already have a possession receiver, and I think I like QT. I think he's their sort of underneath guy, similar like Golden Tate role. I just don't see where Demarius Thomas to this offense. So I'm curious to see how.
Well, I just think he's gonna come in and line up on the outside, opposites of the to Hopkins. They just need somebody just to pass the ball to over there because they want Kiki QT on the slot, and they just don't have another outside wide receiver, and I think that's where he's going to be. He's gonna just, you know what? You might be right. He might not get such a big bump, but I mean, playing with DeAndre Hopkins on the other side and having Deshaun Watson as your quarterback has got to be better than the Broncos' offense. It has to give him some points boosts. It has to, right?
Uh, you're right, because I remember going back and people blame Case Keenum in the LA Rams off on Jeff Fisher, and like, oh yeah, Fisher just like he coached them terribly. But I watched Case Keenum throw a ball just 2 years ago, and he looked his mechanics were so poor that he'd never make it in the NFL. And then to go to the Vikings and have the season that he had was impressive. I didn't see that coming at all.
When you're throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen,
Right.
it's just it kind of makes your job a little bit easy. I'm surprised Kirk Cousins is not having like a better year than he is actually. And just watching, I mean, I haven't really truly watched any Vikings games, but just watching highlights, you see Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs like absolutely murder their defensive partner, and then Kirk Cousins doesn't get the ball like right on the money. You know what I mean? Like either the ball
that's probably
is
because
catchable.
he's running away. No.
Yeah.
The thing about Cousins is their offense. He is constantly under pressure, and like I think from a clean pocket, he's one of the most prolific passers in the league. But because he's constantly being pressured and moved off of his spot, like he throws a more inaccurate ball on the run. He got sacked so many times in that game on Sunday. Like, and you can't get any rhythm like that. So I think
Yeah,
that's a big reason
you're probably
why.
right on that. You're probably right. And then the last guy who got traded was Amari Cooper. You have any thoughts on this one?
Uh, I feel like it's a shit show on both sides. Um, Dallas looks terrible. Their passing game. This might be like the injection of skill that they need because they've really not been able to get it from the combination of Beasley and Hearns. And I really like Michael Gallup, and he's shown some signs of like real stardom. But when you got a guy like Cooper instead, I think that could really help elevate them. But Dak just doesn't look that good, and
No, he doesn't.
Jason Garrett makes him really bad. They're all playing. I don't know. I'm worried about that.
I have no idea how to feel about this. I honestly don't. I mean, I don't. I have no opinions. That's it. It's just keep your eyes on it, I guess. I'm not sure. All right.
Yeah,
So fuck, Mary, kill. Golden Tate, Demarius Thomas, Amari Cooper.
yeah. So I gave this one a little thought. I'm gonna say I'm gonna fuck Golden Tate because I don't think he's necessarily there long term. Like he's not the guy, but he could be. He could really turn into something. I think um, uh, Jason, sorry, Jason Peterson. I want to say um, Peterson likes what he has there, and he likes the flexibility of that play. I'm gonna kill the various time and washed up, and then I'm gonna marry Amari Cooper. The man is as young as some of like these third year, sorry, these first year like guys coming out of college. I think Amari Cooper's like, so he had a really young breakout age. He's got a really strong future potentially if he can get his head on right. And now that he's out of this fucking Oakland black hole, there's maybe a future for him. So I don't know that it's with Dallas. I would rather be attached to that. I think uh, his best year.
See, I would go differently. I would go fuck Amari Cooper because you just never know. You could have one of those crazy nights or be absolutely awful the other day. So, I'd rather take a chance on the crazy night and not be forever stuck with the possibility of crazy night or absolute awfulness. And then marry Golden Tate because the man is just dependable. He's always there. He's a solid rock. And killed Demarius Thomas. He's old.
Yeah,
Just put him out back.
yeah.
Take
He's
care
already
of
ashes.
him. Hey, let's go into our crazy league idea segment. And you wanted to talk about Fab, right?
Yeah, I think we should. I think this rolling waiver thing is kind of. I'm in another league that also has rolling waivers, and it's just not the best system for like waiver priority.
It's really not, man.
I like it.
It's Mario Kart rules. I'm just it's like your team loses the first couple of weeks, and now you get an advantage on picking up the better guys just because your team sucked. It's like you're getting bonuses for being bad.
I don't
What?
think that's how our waiver priority.
Yeah, I mean that's how waiver priorities are, and I just not a fan.
Yeah, I think like a ranking system, a rolling system, it just doesn't make a ton of sense when we're talking about real money. Um, it could be real money in some leagues. You're actually putting dollars behind your waiver pickups, but it's way more of a chance to get your guy and be bold and make bold calls rather than being just sort of like relegated to a line. And I
Well,
think bold calls is all about like what fantasy football is about. So,
explain to people who are listening who might not know what Fab is. Explain it to them, what it is.
so Fab is free agent auction bidding dollars essentially, and it can be up to like 100 or 200 for a whole season. And you make a blind bid when the waiver time comes, and usually when you're evaluating like how much do you want to spend on a player, it's based on percentages, maybe all budget is. So if you need a guy like say Ezekiel Elliott was on the waivers for and he was available, like you might drop 50% of your fab budget to
If
make sure you
Ezekiel
get
Elliott were on the waiver wire, I would drop all of my fab budget,
yeah, exactly.
everything I have.
Yeah, or a player like that, like envisioning that like a running back just sort of lands into a really valuable role based on short. Um, the person who has the first waiver priority doesn't necessarily guarantee themselves a spot. So everybody has an equal chance of getting.
Yeah, it takes away the bonuses for losing. It adds more strategy into the game where you have to think about now you have resources, and how much of your resource do you want to spend on that one guy, and it really allows you to, like you said, to take your shots. Like if you honestly believe that that guy is going to be really good, then you can spend a big portion of your fab budget to make sure you get that guy on your team. You can kind of try to guarantee that you get the guy that you want on your team at the expense of the future of your team, where you won't have as much money, or as many resources to pursue the other people in the future on your bye weeks and stuff. It's a very interesting system. I like it a lot. I think it's significantly better than all the other waiver wire systems that exist.
One other consideration as well, if the league does push through a vote for an auction, part of the contingency with the draft is that if you don't spend all of your draft dollars, some of that rolls up into
the actual fab, right?
So you can be kind of conscious of your choices, and if you want to spend down so that you have more to like ride on the waivers throughout the season, that's a strategy that you're more than welcome to employ. It gives more variety.
So my personal crazy league idea is I would like to introduce first downs, or point per first down, as the baseline that we use. So the whole point of PPR is that the point per reception is that people are in the original standard rules is touchdowns are 6 points and yards is 1 point per 10. And when you think about it, is like a touchdown is such a giant percentage of a player's points in any given week, and the game becomes really touchdown dependent. And all these players that are involved, like let's say Julio Jones, who do get yards but don't get in the end zone, they get punished for the fact that they don't get in the end zone. So you add PPR in, or points per reception, to give you a baseline of these players that are heavily involved in the game but don't get a touchdown that week. Now your team isn't severely punished and you're not losing your week on a high variable of just a touchdown dependency, correct?
Yeah.
So point per receptions is what we use as a baseline. So I love the fact that we have a baseline, but I hate the fact that it's tied to receptions. I think that's like one of those, like how I was talking about earlier, how we're in this weird transition phase of we're trying to make a good fantasy football rule set, or like the entire fantasy football community is trying to come up with the next generation, what is going to be the most balanced fantasy football rule set. I just hate the fact that the baseline is tied to receptions, because nowadays the short passing game in the NFL is just becoming so predominant, like where people pass the football and on a screen pass, and they get a full point for catching a screen pass that they end up losing a yard. You know what I mean? It's like they catch a ball behind the line of scrimmage, get tackled, and they still get a point. It's just a silly thing to reward, like where you introduce points per first down. Now you actually have a baseline that is attached to something real. Like a player gets a first down and they get a point. And I don't know. I just really love that idea, and I think that's something that I would like to introduce for the league next year for sure.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I've seen that done in a lot of leagues. It's available in Flea Flicker. It's available in
Yeah,
Super App. There's some leagues that don't support it.
it was
But I
just
think you know,
added in most systems last year. Like Flea Flicker didn't have it last year, and they just added it coming into this season, like right before the season started.
yeah, I think I'm going to tie this into a trade that we missed talking about, which was Ty Montgomery,
Oh yeah,
who got
whoops.
traded for a 2020 seventh round pick. Um, but Ty Montgomery is that perfect example of a guy whose value is sort of overweighted of like his role in the passing game.
Right,
Because what does he actually do with those targets? Ton, but
does
15
nothing.
receptions is 15 points, and that's more than like half of his scoring on the season, just on catches for 0 yards.
Yeah, like
Um,
let's look at his week 3 against Washington. He had 54 total yards that game, but still came up with 15 points that game,
yep.
just from catching balls. And one thing that PPR really hurts too is PPR hates, or it really hurts running backs that don't catch the football. Like they get a lot of yards to the ground, but they don't catch the football. Where points per first down, for example, like Marshawn Lynch would be one of those guys, right? Where points for first down, now Marshawn Lynch is actually valued as his real football value because now he runs the ball and he's getting points for those first downs. And so he's not hurt in that system.
Yeah. Yeah. It shows usage and trust in the player and the team's
Yes.
reliance on that player. So I think it's a better reflection
And
of
also wide
a
receivers that catch deeper passes too.
right,
Because
right,
wide receivers that catch the short passes that aren't necessarily getting the first downs, or the wide receivers
right.
that, yeah. But if you're catching the pass and getting the first down, that's obviously way more valuable for the football team, and it's represented in the scoring system.
One more thought for you is maybe we're taking the point per reception away and involving like point per target too. Um, Not necessarily in addition to, or maybe instead of,
Right.
just the player's involvement in the game.
That's an interesting one. I
Like
actually have not thought about like a very small number of points for the target instead of the actual reception. See, like what I was thinking was getting like the rule set I was playing around with was a full point for the first down and 0.25 points per reception. So like now you're still getting some points for the reception, but the real baseline is on the first down. That's
Yeah, it's something that we could give a lot more thought to. I think
yeah.
let's bring it up at the year-end bank.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, all right, I think we spent a lot of time on this. Let's go ahead and just go right into the recaps of Week 8. Uh, let's go ahead and start off with the game that we thought was going to be the game of the week, which is Martial Law versus Chalupa Batman. Was that the game that you thought was going to be the game of the week as well on your show?
I don't know if I had a game of the week per se, but I was really curious if Chalupa would go down, and in fact, she did.
Yep, Dean actually called this one,
It's very
right? Dean called for the upset on my show. So good on you, Dean. Yeah, it was just Rob got carried by James Conner, man. 42 points. Like
It's so silly.
and Todd Gurley is still doing Todd Gurley things, 38 and a half, but still not enough. Chalupa's wide receivers really let her down. Demaryius Thomas and Michael Crabtree both putting up only 6 points. That's what spelled her doom, I think.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you watched the end of that L.A. Rams game, but
I
Todd
didn't.
Gurley had a chance to run another
Oh, yeah, I
run in
heard
for a
about that.
touchdown,
Hmm.
and he literally stopped on the 2 yard line and just sat because the game was over. But like
Hmm.
he literally ended the game for them rather than
Right.
giving Rodgers the ball back.
Yeah,
Whatever
and
he
giving
shot
them a
at him.
chance to get a touchdown and do Roger things.
I was like, I'm so glad I didn't have Gurley because I would, like a lot of fantasy players. But I think that's a big sign of respect
Hmm.
and real commitment to the team and the team goals. So like, I love Todd Gurley for that.
Yeah. Is there um is there anything you want to talk about in this game, or should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think kicker, Dan Bill had about that. I've been bitten by some of these before too. So one of my other rule changes is going to be let's remove kicker and defense out of here. So she'll live with that won't. Not
Um,
that it really made a huge difference.
I'm down with getting rid of defense because I've been scratching my head trying to balance defenses, and I just can't find an answer for it. But I honestly believe that the rule change where the extra point counts as 3 points for kickers, and then you also give them bonuses for farther kicks or whatever. I honestly
Yeah.
believe that that will make the kicker position interesting. And normally I'm with you on competitive fantasy football leagues. You should remove the kicker. But I really, really, really want to try this 3 points per extra point.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that works too. I could get down with that.
Um, and then on to my game, Captain McGee versus Joe Buck Yourself. Oh man, this game was really good. 190 points versus 165. Except my team just came through, man. It's like Marlon Mack is no longer injured and playing. Lamar Miller, same thing. Got three running backs are all putting up great points. The Odell Beckham trade worked out great for me. Odell Beckham is definitely doing work for me, and it's allowing me to play Marlon Mack and Lamar Miller, who are also outperforming David Johnson. So I think that's the end of the year. That's if I do win, that might be what makes it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, what you have Mike Evans and Odell Beckham potentially being wide receiver ones every
Yep.
week, and then McCaffrey, and then Marlon Mack is ridiculous right now. I think this could slow down at some point, but ride him while he's hot. And
I mean, he's
yeah,
getting 150 yards. It's like both games that he's been back. I didn't start him at the first game he came back. I was like, okay, it's his first game back from injury. He's probably not going to get a lot of snaps, and then boom, he blows up on the very first game. It's crazy.
yeah, no, it's good. I wish I had him or pieces of him. I think Andrew Luck. You grab him off the waiver,
Oh, thank you,
and
by the way. I appreciate it.
yeah, I should have never done that. Um, uh, yeah, that's about all I can say for myself. I mean, the guy is throwing in the entire league, and I decided to keep Kirk Cousins instead, basically
Oof.
just to make myself about trading
Yep, is
Brady
that trade right? Is like that
and
trade
Luck
guilt? Like you
away.
did, you made the trade, and now you don't want to get rid of the player that you traded for.
Yeah, I put myself in a bind. So I think the reason I got off Luck was because I'm thrilled about the fact that he has to play Jacksonville twice still.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's not good.
so, so I'm gonna probably end up streaming, but like while he's still hot, ride him while you got him.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, I have to get my streamer right now because Andrew Luck is on bye week this week. But yeah, man, Dean almost came through. He had Carson Wentz on his bench who played Jacksonville, so I can understand why he sat him. Played Tom Brady instead. I mean, I'm not gonna put him down for that.
Yeah, I did the
Chris
same thing.
Chris Carson also a lot of points on his bench, but it's not like he's gonna sit down Kerryon Johnson or Adrian Peterson. I mean, I honestly would have thought about playing Chris Carson over Kerryon Johnson, but
Mm.
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a coin flip.
It
I
it,
think
it
the fact
is.
that Kenny Galladay was on a milk carton this weekend, missing. So that's probably the biggest reason.
Yeah, it's
you
the
know,
big reason why he lost right there.
but really, I mean, you can't beat a team when they're putting up almost like a buck 90.
Yeah, when
It's a
I
great week
yeah.
for him, and he came up against the immovable object.
He would have beat. There was a lot of high-scoring teams this week. So even at the
He would beat me.
165, yeah, but he still would have lost to Stumptavius, to Martial Law, as well as me. So a lot of high-scoring teams this week. Next game, we got Montana Muskeloaders upsets the House. Oof. Just look at the House and all those bye weeks. I didn't think it was going to affect them that much, but apparently he did because he ended up. I thought Case Keenum would do so much better against Kansas City, but nope, just 17 points.
Yeah, I think he kind of ran up against a couple really tough matchups too. That Devin Funches, the Baltimore secondary looked really strong. They scored most of their points in Carolina,
Hmm.
and Golden Tate. You know, I think Marvin Jones had most of the
Yeah,
work
Marvin
in that
Jones
game.
got the big touchdowns.
Yeah, that was bad luck. Sammy Watkins was the guy in Casey week. It's like you
And
got pieces of these good offenses, but it's like kind of a coin flip on whether or not they're going to go off.
right. And then here we have the Ravens defense putting up negative 1.67. It's just oof. And
It's
Redskins
such a
putting up 21
huge
points.
swing. Yeah, exactly. Like when the Redskins put up 21 and you're losing almost two, that's like a really big difference maker. And it's hard to pick the right streams on these, and holding on to these aren't that smart either. I don't know. I haven't figured out how the fuck to play the DST position this season. I've been really bad at it.
The
Can't
DST is
really
just
fall
so
into
hard. I mean, I've just been lucky because I picked up the Bears after they got Khalil Mack, and it's just I don't really have to think about it. But if unless you have like one of those awesome defenses, it's just hard. And even when you do, obviously you had the Ravens, which were the highest scoring defense coming into the week, and they put up negative 2 points. Defenses are so hard, man. That's why, like you said before, you're thinking about getting rid of them. I'd be down with it, getting rid of defenses for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a nice wild element. You're into that kind of thing. But my other thing against the wild card, or at least reducing some of the variability week to week and making it competitive, is playing against the median score too. So you get a win against your head-to-head, and then if you score above the median total,
Oh, I proposed that to
you get a
Dylan before. He hated it.
oh man, I think
He
that's
he
really
will
strong.
hate you for trying to. He was like, Gee, we're not playing soccer. We're playing football. That's what he said. Um, Anything else you want to touch up on that game before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think I had Chris Ivory on here because I just don't see in what world you're going to start Ivory over Aaron Jones. I'm not sure what the thought process was that led him there, but I think that's a really question.
I think it was the fact that Aaron Jones did nothing against San Francisco. He put up 5.7 points against San Francisco, and then Chris Ivory has gotten some scoring. I mean, last week Chris Ivory got 16.8, so you're kind of thinking, oh, well, he got heavy usage. I can kind of understand it, because you don't know what Green Bay is going to do with their backfield, and then you saw Chris Ivory get 17 points last week. I can kind of see why he would make that decision.
Oof. Yeah, I just don't see ever starting a Buffalo player.
Oh man, I dodged a
Wow.
bullet on not trading Holden to LaShawn McCoy. Oof.
Oh yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
was hoping that McCoy got traded to Philly. That would have really increased his value, but no
Oh,
such luck.
I know we're
Trade deadline.
coming up here to the unluckiest man in the fantasy league right now at the moment. Uh, Subtavius Roboclick versus My Dad Owns a Dealership, 167 to 161.
Tough break.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything he could have done to have won this game.
Not with what he has bench.
The only player on his
I
bench that scored a lot was Kenyon Drake, but then again, you couldn't trust Kenyon Drake to come out and score 26 points. I mean, I 100% understand the Latavius Murray and the David Johnson plays.
yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have done it any differently.
Yeah. T.Y. Hilton putting up only 4.4 points in a
In
game where they score
game where
42.
they scored 42.
This is just how? It's just unbelievable.
If you told me that the Indianapolis Colts were going to score 42 points and that T.Y. Hilton was going to have 4.4 fantasy points, I would have told you you're out of your fucking mind. That just, it doesn't make any sense.
You want to hear something crazy?
What's that?
He doesn't trade Odell Beckham away. He doesn't start Chris Hogan. He starts Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, and Kenyon Drake. He wins this game.
I mean,
And not only does he win this game, he's a top scoring game in the week.
it's like we said, this is the one that he's going to think to himself, what could I have done differently? Because it might make or break a season.
Oh,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But his team is too good, man. There's no way that There's no way, man. There's no way that this team doesn't make the playoffs. Even he's 4-4 now and getting really unlucky. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, this was definitely just a bad luck game for him. I mean,
Antonio Brown, who's been slowing down, managed to get two touchdowns. Like
yep.
Jordan Howard,
Yeah,
all of a
he's
sudden
good.
decided to show up finally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Sammy
sorry,
Watkins
dealership.
showed up out of nowhere and put up 8 receptions, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, everything went wrong against Hill in this game. Sorry.
Yeah. Justin Tucker, only 3 extra points.
It would have been 9 points in my system, just saying.
And would have. There you go. Another reason.
Yeah, and then, what? It would have been 9 points versus 15. Yeah, I guess. Never mind. I'm wrong.
Oh, no. It doesn't apply.
Because Chris Boswell, got 4 extra points and a field goal in that game. But anything you want to add on the My Dad Owns a Dealership in that game?
No, there's not much to say.
All right, and Breaker Chains versus H-Bug. I'm so sorry, man.
Jesus.
I'm so sorry.
I was sweating this one.
You almost lost to Holden. I thought Holden was going to score. I called it. Holden is going to score 120, and he's almost going to beat you. That's what I said on my prediction, because I thought you were going to have a really bad week.
Yeah, I almost did.
You almost did. You put up the 150, and Holden way overshot my predictions and scored 145. Oof.
I was up 50 going to last night, and Buffalo and New England, he goes for 23.8 with a touchdown and just 6 points allowed, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. Jesus, they just had a game. And I thought that might happen, but Shady back gets 95 yards and 6 catches and puts up nearly 18. And yeah, that 50-point lead did not look so comfortable in the third quarter of that game.
And this shows what the fuck you were thinking. What the fuck are you thinking, Holden, starting David Njoku and Jordan Reed instead of putting Larry Fitzgerald against the San Francisco 49ers in your lineup?
Dude,
How
we've been saying on the various pods, like your pod, when I'm going through his lineups, even fucking Martian is looking at your lineup. Dude, what are you doing? Like, rostering at some point. I think he had three tight ends. He's starting two of them, and it's like at some point, this isn't going to work out for you. Like tight end is a dumpster fire, man. It is a shit show. Like they're just not reliable.
They're not. I think it's because his wide receivers are so bad, and he keeps on hanging on to these injured players. You know how many offers I've sent Holden for Dalvin Cook, who is injured and is not going to play. I've been sending him offers. This entire time, he could have had players he could have actually been playing, but he refuses to let go of Dalvin Cook. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know what he's thinking, but I mean he's 0-8, so his record reflects the kind of this.
The 2-70 overall. Well, I'm happy you won, man.
Yeah, me too.
Let's
I got bailed out actually. If I'm being honest, I'm looking at and Evan Ingram got like the latest garbage time touchdown I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, without that, like it's a different scenario. I'm pretty sure that would have been the difference maker. So yeah, I got really fun. I can't believe like I lost to Joe Buck already. I nearly lost to Holden. It seems like when I play bad teams, my team plays down to the competition.
Right.
And I'd like to like coach that out of myself, but I just can't seem to like find the words.
There's nothing we can do, man. Let's move on to our predictions for next week. Start off here with Montana Muskeloaders versus Chalupa Batman. 5-3 versus 6-2.
Oof. So
Chalupa Batman played Montana Muskeloaders earlier in the season and beat them. So this is his chance for revenge for Montana Muskeloaders. And if you look at his bye weeks are Andy Dalton and TJ Yeldon, which is not going to be a big deal at all because he's got Cam Newton playing against Tampa Bay, so he's golden at quarterback. And his running backs are really pathetic, so maybe the TJ Yeldon would have been useful, but on the other side, Chalupa Batman is missing Zach Ertz. Has she picked up a tight end yet? Nope, she's going to have to drop somebody.
no, but waivers have been pro.
Yeah. She's going to have to drop someone. Who do you think?
Matt Bryant.
Oh, she's got two kickers?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she will drop him, but that would be a wise thing to do.
What do you think this game is going to shape up?
I gotta give like there's this part of me that fucking lucky charm in this whole thing because like he has been the most like solid rock of this team. I mean, Todd Gurley, yes, but I think if there's any lineup that's going against her that has the name Derrick Henry in it, I have to give.
Yeah, I think Cam Newton is going to go off and get a whole bunch of points. And so is Robert Woods. But I don't think that's going to be enough.
And that's enough to do.
I don't think it's going to be enough. No, I don't think Ben Roethlisberger is going to have a good game. But James White and Todd Gurley, they're gonna do some work. And I don't know if she's still going to start Demaryius Thomas. That's probably not a good idea, but she's got some other things that she can do. We'll see how she plays to.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Chalupa takes this. That's my call.
Yeah. Me too.
Martial Law versus My Dad Owns a Dealership. My Dad Owns a Dealership leads the series 1-0. When it comes to bye weeks, AJ Green is on the outside for Martial Law, and David Johnson and T.Y. Hilton's on the bye week for My Dad Owns a Dealership. Looks like My Dad Owns a Dealership already set his lineup for this week. Looks like he already set up his lineup. He's probably going to think and remove someone and put someone in. Maybe not.
Yeah, I think he's looking at that, and Hogan's role in this offense, and maybe it's not that dropping Gordon was a bad idea. It's just that picking up Chris Hogan was. And it's nothing against Dylan, but I think it's the fact the Patriots are unpredictable. They're spreading the ball around. I think there was like a little bit too much hype around Gordon being such a type of player. That he hasn't already been kicked off the team is signed to me enough that he's like doing like they're not gonna discipline him as if sitting a couple series is like gonna
Right.
make him change his mind about like what his whether or not he's tardy. Like he's just a baller, and he didn't play that well. And he might not.
He
be
dropped a
wrong,
big catch
even,
in the beginning of the game, like
yeah,
a
it was right in
big bomb.
his chest.
Hmm.
But like even if they cut him, like there's nothing saying that Chris Hogan's going to be involved. Earlier in the season, it was Philip Dorsett,
Yeah,
and there's a great chance that he comes back.
he comes
Cordell
back.
Patterson's still playing.
And Cordell Patterson is getting some interesting touches. Like they ran him out at running back at one point last game. He's getting the return yards. I don't know. That Patriots team is all over the place. I would have hanged on to Josh Gordon though. I'm a believer in his talent, but I'm a sucker. So who knows?
He's just got so much upside. I would rather have the see than like a more stable floor. Although having pieces of the Patriots offense is never a bad thing. I mean, James White was the cheapest running back in the Patriots offense in the offseason, and look how it's working out for Chalupa.
So as of right now, Martial Law just needs a defense, and he's I mean, if he puts a defense in there, he's projected higher than my dad owns a dealership. That's not good news for my dad owns a dealership.
I want to call Dylan in this one because I think that Kamara home against the Rams is a interesting spot, and where on the opposite side, James Conner at Baltimore. I don't, and I think that's going to be the big swing here is when the studs on Dylan's team go off, and the studs on Marshall.
I just like Martial Law's matchup so much better than my dad owns a dealership. I'm going to call for an upset, and I'm going to call my dad owns a dealership remains being the most unlucky guy in the world. I'm going to say Martial Law wins it.
All right.
Stumptavius Roboclick versus H-Bug. Stumptavius Roboclick wins.
It's just hands.
I'm not gonna talk about Holden. I mean, if you want to, we can.
I think it's just impressive that his projections.
His projection is at 130.
I mean, that's the highest it's been by like probably close to 20 points, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, is RoboClick that good that like you don't think Holden could?
Yeah, I really do. I honestly think Doug Martin is really good. That's why I was trying to trade for him really hard, and Stumptavius just would not budge. We're gonna see on this primetime game when the Oakland plays San Francisco on Thursday. We'll get to see him more, but I honestly think he really is good, and the Bucks' offensive line is just absolute trash. That's why he wasn't getting any yards when he was with us.
Here, this will be my call. If Holt decides to take one of those fucking tight ends, I'll give him the win. If he keeps both of them, though, it's an off.
All right. Oh. And we got the next game is the Breaker of Chains versus Joe Buck yourself. Joe Buck beat you last week or last time you guys played.
Yeah, I'm really marred by weeks and injuries.
Oh,
I mean, look at my bench.
oh my lord. Oh, what are you gonna do? You can't even drop. Are you gonna drop Bryce Freeman? You kind of have to. You kind of have to.
There are people who have deeper benches that I can trade with. So.
Oh, you're trying to trade?
Yeah, I'm looking to make some moves. this off season. This week.
I would like Gronk. I'm just throwing that out there. I would like Gronk.
Evan Ingram is still available.
Oh yes, I would like Evan Ingram as well, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to pay anything for Evan Ingram. I don't know if I'm. I mean, like, we'll talk about it later. Not on the pod.
I mean, yeah.
um, man, I'm gonna go with Joe Buck yourselves with the upset. I don't think you can come back
I
from
know.
this many bye weeks. There's,
I don't think I can.
it's just so awful. Yeah, man, I'm going with Joe Buck.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm gonna try my best to put a week together here,
Mhm.
and I think no, I have to give it to him too.
How does it feel to get swept by Joe Buck?
Not good.
Uh,
It kind of feels like getting touched by like a priest.
oh man.
It's like they're good people, but like they're not supposed to do that.
Oh man, that's a moral conundrum. Are they really good people if they're touching you like that?
Well, okay, fair enough.
All right.
They're not good people.
Um. So, I'm gonna go with call my game of the week: Captain McGee versus House of Priapism. Both teams are 5-3. I am on top of the division, the Whoreface division right now. But if House of Priapism wins, he goes on top. I have to win to stay on top. This is a game that's very important, a lot of playoff implications. So that's why I'm making it my game of the week. What do you
My
think?
game of the week, the one to watch, I think, is Martian Law. I think these two are both bubble teams at this point.
Yeah, that's also a
Martian
really
Law
good
wasn't
game.
until this win, but I think there's a lot of implication here. Big things for dealership if he loses. That really puts him at risk. Getting that victory really helps
Yep.
and makes this playoff run even more interesting.
Yep. Oh my god. If things go how I call it, where Martial Law wins and Stemptavius wins, then my dad owns a dealership and Stemptavius are both at 4-5. So,
Oof.
like, there's a shot for Stemptavius to make it in and my dad owns a dealership,
I
gets
know.
out.
This is the nightmare scenario we talked about.
So, back to Captain McGee versus my house, or House of Priapism. On the bye weeks, I got Andrew Luck and Marlon Mack out and Odell Beckham. It's looking rough. And on his side, he's got Golden Tate, Saquon Barkley, and Sterling Shepard. So he's not looking that much better either.
Not really. Yeah, we saw him try out Chris Ivory there last week. I don't think his options are really that much better.
And
Just to see if Melvin Gordon is helped.
And he lost Will Fuller for the year.
Yeah, I think Gordon's health is like a big swing on.
Yeah, if Golden can play or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be a big factor in this. I know he has Eckler, but we saw Eckler not really be the same player in Gordon's role.
Right. Right. He's good to come in and on the change of pace, try and go for the big stuff instead of grinding out every single play.
Hey, here's my bold call for them is I think that Cleveland beats Kansas this weekend.
Cleveland beats Kansas City.
I think Kansas City travels to Cleveland, and I think they lose to Baker Mayfield in the rounds.
Why are you
no
dumping
coach.
such a hot steaming pile of hot take right here instead of at the end of the show?
I'm so sorry.
I don't know how to deal with this anymore.
Well, I mean, it's a big part of whether or not this team is going to beat you, and I think he's so indexed on the Kansas City Hill and Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
Hill's a little banged up. Kelsey's a big part of this, but if they're in a situation where and Bucker even, where Kansas City loses this game, or it's a low-scoring game, or their defense really is stout against KC, like that's a humongous shift from those three players scoring. So, I think a
a really
really
interesting
impactful play.
things about this matchup is going to be Tyreek Hill is going to be matched up with Denzel Ward. If like Tyreek Hill, like his
Oh,
main
that's
thing is
awesome.
his speed, right? If there's anyone that can keep up with Tyreek Hill, it's Denzel Ward.
Tyreek Hill with a groin injury. That's
Yeah,
definitely Denzel Ward.
yeah. You know, I think these bye weeks and all these injuries that just hit House of Priapism is going to allow me to sweep and take this W.
Yeah, they're not looking good. I'd give it to you.
All right. Uh, that that's all of the predictions. You dropped your steaming hot take, and now I don't even have one because I'm so out of it.
Oh,
So let's just call it a night. Let's say goodbye to everybody, Kyle.
all right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for watching.